So, welcome to the final session of Bricks at Home's first day, everybody. Bricks at Home, for those who haven't been in the session so far, is a live event running today and tomorrow, put on by London Affols and Brick Alley Lug. Given that this is the last session, I think two people who deserve a massive shout out, Richard Carter and Kaz Mockett, who have put this event on. I'm presenting it today, but they're the guys who've done it all. They're the guys who've arranged everything. So I'm sure everyone will join me in giving a massive thank you to them. And a massive thank you to everyone who's come along and watched, seen everyone else's builds. And of course, a huge thank you to everyone who's presented as well. My name's Graham Hancock. I'm the editor at brickfanatics.com, deputy editor at Blocks magazine. I'm presenting for today. And there is one session left to present, and that is all about vintage and remastered Lego sets. But there's a whole nother day of Bricks at Home tomorrow, so be sure to come back for that as well. So this final session will be followed by a social, which I'm assuming will start straight after this. So everyone can just hang out, unmute themselves and chat Lego for a while. So in this vintage and remastered Lego set session, we've got Chris Wellings and Nick Spence, who will be talking to us. But first of all, we've got Simon Blackburn from Northern Brickworks, and he's going to talk about a history of the 1970s in Lego bricks. So Simon,
yep.
Are you?
Very much.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. First of all, I need to apologise. I do feel like a little bit of a fraud in this, in that everybody else has been showing their own work. And here I am, just digging out a load of Lego sets from days gone by. So I will try and make it a little bit more interesting than here's the golden set, and this is a 297, and we'll try and make it a little bit better than that. There are a few points that I'd like to make about the 1970s. In my mind, it was a golden era. Now I'm biased because I was born in '69, so I grew up playing with these sets. I'll show you some of the ones that I had as a kid and I remember playing with. Obviously, some of the ones I wanted as a kid, but didn't get, because that's just toys when you're a kid, isn't it? I did start off thinking I'd get through 50 sets today. I think that was a little ambitious, so I've cut it down to 30, you'll be pleased to hear. I'm bound to have missed somebody's favourite. Hopefully I'll get most of them in. What I would say before we start is that I am not a perfectionist as Lego sets go. I do not go out there spending a lot of money buying them. I go through junk boxes, I collect, I see a bit that I like, oh, that's just, I put it in the box, put it onto one side, and over a period of time, I build sets up. So when you look at these sets, you're going to look at them, you're going to see, that window's the wrong colour, that's not right, that's not right. Great, play the game, that's what it's there for. By all means, if you want to put them in the chat, what's wrong with a particular model, good, all adds to the fun. But that's the way I build over time. I just like looking for the old bits, digging through boxes of junk, well, not junk parts. No, there is no such thing as a junk part, is there? It's all parts, it just needs sorting. So anyway, that's what we're going to go to. So I'll go through year by year. To be honest, 1970 is not a good year for me. I haven't actually got any sets from that were released in 1970. What I do have is the humble Duplo brick. Now, this is a bit contentious. I'm working from information from the Lego Collector Guide, edition 2 I have, but as I don't need anything after 1985, good enough for me. And also Bricklink. Now, Bricklink says they were first released in '69. This one says it released in 70. So I'm claiming the 70, and that's the first one we've got, the humble Duplo brick. Okay, moving on to 71. The Spanish Villa. I guess the period has started, people were going on holidays to Spain. Everybody's seeing these. Nice Spanish Villa. Of course, if you've got a Spanish Villa, what do we need to go with the Spanish Villa? The Swiss chalet for your skiing trips. So we got the Swiss chalet to go with the skiing trips. Okay. So that's it. As you can see, pretty basic sort of things you would have expected coming out the back end of the 60s. Nothing particularly fancy in there. Certain other brands of Lego building bricks may produce something similar and call it a modern set. But moving on to 72. So now this is probably the first set I remember having as a kid. and I've just dropped it, which is not great. And it's the police heliport. So the car's disappeared under the table somewhere. Should have the aerial on the top of here. Strangely enough, very few of those survive. So I've got quite a few in the display somewhere, but not in all of them. So again, we have a nasty pen mark on the front of the no parking sign. Very embarrassing. We'll live with that. Okay, then moving on. One of the first examples of the Lego sticker. Set 171. Now this was around for a long time. I think they started in 72 and carried on all the way through to 80. So we've got, this was supposed to be train without motor, but judging from the fact that that weighs a ton and obviously that's a motor box, we've been playing with that one a little bit, and the appropriate carriages to go with it. Okay. There's a fine example of how good the pocket money sets were for Lego in that day. Here we see a quality Lego truck. And that's, I've not made a note of how many parts we've got in there, but obviously I was born 69, so a little bit early for me, but I'm sure my brother would have been out to the shops and buy one of those. So that's what 72 gave us. Now, moving on to 73. Wonderful thing, the macaroni, I think, was invented in 73. So here we see a fine example of the tugboat. This one looks a lot better than mine, which was I actually had the oil tanker. As you can see, that got very heavily played with in the bath. So needs a rebuild, needs sorting out. But yeah, the Lego boats came in, 3 of those, quite nice, playable toys. Everybody had one in the bath. We'd also got that time was in the Lego Land series, which sort of came out at the back end of the 60s, 69 were the first ones that came out. They put in these. Now, there was an issue with scale. For some strange reason, they seemed to think that the kids wouldn't notice that these were both Lego Land trucks, but quite a different scale going off there. But on the plus side, these did have quite a nice steering mechanism tied into the top. So that was quite a nice feature. So that's set 381 if anybody's interested. And then we're getting a little bit more ambitious with some of the sets. Obviously, 69, we had the landing on the moon. So they thought we'd better come up with a space theme. As you can tell, we're missing a few white macaronis in this one. Hence, the rocket doesn't quite reach the top of the tower, kind of everything. And white Lego Land bricks would look better in there than yellow ones, of course. But as I say, I build our sets up over time. So, and also, shouldn't be a blue one in the back either. So, that was 73. So, we start looking now at 74. Somebody at Lego obviously had a caravan because one of their favourite models was a car and caravan. These were redone several times during the 70s. And I'm sure the Top Gear team would have something to say about that. But anyway, it seemed popular. And one thing that did come out of the 70s, which didn't make it past them, was the building sets with figures, as they were known, or homemaker. Obviously, find them in most boxes of junk. You look on Bricklink, they're 2 pence a piece for a head or body or something like that. So would be quite a nice display to do thousands of these. May have to look at that at some point. So we've got a family set there. And as you're having your family, what you've got to have with it is your furniture. So there, your G-plan furniture that was probably all the rage in the 70s also came out in to go with your doll's house. Obviously, Lego were trying to quite strongly target the girl market at this point and try and get into the doll's house and push that side of things in a similar way to what they do with Friends now and the Elves and all those sort of sets. So that was 1974. So if we move on to 1975. Now, trains had started back in 66. I believe. One quite nice thing, they did start pushing bigger ideas to go with your trains. So here we see Central Station, which is set 148, which made interesting use of the green brick base plates, and also came with a little cart to add to your train tracks. So it's quite a nice little build for the early train sets. As we can see here, 75 is when the armless minifig came in and was in quite a few sets. Here we got the windmill set. Only problem being the only hair you had for men at the time, well, the only headgear was a hat in various colours, blues, blacks, whites on some, I think, as well. And for the women, it was the pigtail hair. So there we got that one. And then another set that I do remember having, and this was the pocket money set, was the fork truck. So again, that was a personal favourite. If you find one with the spring is still intact, you're doing pretty well actually, because 99% of them have lost the springs. Okay, the other thing that really came out in 75 were the hobby sets. So this is where Lego had started thinking about some of the older kids and the adults. So the early, I think it's quite an early example that they were realizing there was a market there. Unfortunately, I haven't got any to show today, but they're quite nice. Obviously, the Thatcher Perkins would follow in 76, which for the vintage collectors is quite a nice set that quite a lot of us would like to have. But there were other master builds, the Renault, and then a couple of motorbikes, the Harley Davidson, and some, what the other one was. But yeah, they came out at a similar sort of time. So while we're looking at 75, 76, this is another one where Bricklink and the Collector's Guide don't quite agree. We have the 222 Ideas book, which was very heavily thumbed by me as a small child. Spent many happy hours looking at the figures, realising I didn't have the parts and trying to do something similar. But one of these days, I do actually fancy having a go at, so where's it go? There used to be a nice central page shot. Nope, it's this here. Don't worry about that. Okay. So with the maxi figs, as some people call them, or the homemaker figures, they also did a few ranges. Here we can see the police, who look very sort of Italian with the side arms. Also in 76, actually, I think I'm out by 1 year, 75, we did have the large Western scene. And this was followed up with a cowboy set and a Texas Rangers model. But in 1975, they had brought out a large Western town display, which is one of my other builds at some point when I get around to making use of these stickers that you can that I've managed to find without the rest of the set. We'll get that built and put together some point. Okay. Also in 76, again, thinking of the train fans, we came up with the oil refinery. So again, quite a nice set. Design's obviously moving on significantly from the early 70s. So, and we get to 77, and that's when things really start to change. And I spent many, many happy hours turning this particular set from a helicopter to an aeroplane and back to a helicopter again. It probably got rebuilt once a week from one set to the other. Great idea. You had your big diagram, looked like a technical drawing that showed you how to build. Well, didn't show you, showed you the built helicopter, and then on the back of it, you've got your instructions for the aeroplane. So particularly like that one. Loving the for somebody that never seen any of this sort of technical movement, that kind of arrangement there, and they motorized it as well. I did it, and you could generally shake it to pieces within 30 seconds if you hadn't put it together particularly well. And if we're having the helicopter, there's got to be one set that we've got to put up against that, which would be the original car chassis. Now, I didn't have this one, and this was an envious nose pressed up against the Redgate shop window, which was a very big toy shop in Sheffield at the time, wanting one of these, but never quite managed that. But I did get the helicopter, so I had to make do with that. Okay. But they hadn't given up completely on the armless minifig. We had still got in 77 the 373 set, which was the oil rig complete with oil tanker. Again, the scale wasn't something that we were worried about in those days. The fact that people are bigger than the entire superstructure of that oil tanker doesn't really matter, but it's quite nicely done, and it was very playable. This time. All right. Whoops. Got the fell off. So moving on from there, that's when it really got exciting, because what happens in 78, the Lego minifig is born. Here we see the fire station. Not a bad attempt. There's probably still a few bits missing, but it's mostly there now, this one. And as we can see, it's very playable. It's got lots of these doors you can open. It's got fire trucks that come out with. To be honest, this isn't particularly new, because we've had ladders that could open up and do this kind of thing for most of the decade. So that's not particularly new, but the fact that you could put your little men in there and drive it and all the rest of it was certainly a big move forward. But they hadn't given up completely on the train side of things. They're still trying to provide something for the Lego train enthusiasts. So he says, as he promptly drops it, trying to be helpful. So we've got the cargo depot. Missing its doors, unfortunately, but not too far off other than that. Still with the blue track. The grey track wouldn't come out for a couple more years. And again, quite playable for your train fans. Technique carried on, moving into 78, go-kart, missing its sticker. There are obviously companies out there doing repro stickers, and I will have to put an order in at some point and upgrade these. Nice little movement on the back with the piston going up. No, it's not, it's broken, the links come off. There we go. No, we don't. Okay, one classic set that everybody normally thinks of in the 1978 would have to be the Yellow Castle. Now, as you can see, this is the most recent of my put-togethers. Still haven't got started on getting the figures to go with it, so or even getting around to putting some string on it so it lifts the drawbridge. But again, we'll play the guess what's wrong with the set. The inverted 1B2s underneath the turret should be black. There should be 6 separate 1B1s. Back doors should be red, but it's generally got the right idea. So we come into the last year of the decade, 1979. And at this point, obviously we've missed the classics in 1978, the USS Constellation, which again, gonna have to try and do that at some point. At this point as well, the other thing that's noticeable is that Europe and the North American markets are now starting to merge. Up until now, everything's been issued in Europe a year before North America. It seems to be now that Lego's getting much more into a global setup, and they are reducing everything at the same time. So what we really get in would have happened in 78, but I don't happen to have any of the models from the 78, is our classic space. So a couple of classic space models here. These, not these particular examples, but one of each of these I did buy from a French hypermarket on a school trip to Paris. So again, bit of a personal connection. And then we get something in 79 that I particularly like, but a lot of people don't. Percy Pig and Ricky Raccoon. Fabuland. This comes in right at the end of the decade and obviously goes through to the middle of the 80s. I personally love it. Few people do, but I think it's a bit like Marmite. It's a love it or hate it thing. So we've got that. A final example of the ongoing Lego Town. And there, basically, is our trip through the 1970s. So at the start, we've gone from this to our castle. Oh, sorry, one more set that I did forget to bring up. And that is the 1979 police station. So as you can see, what a difference 10 years makes. And we put this one now against the one that sold 40 years on. Are they that much removed? They're certainly probably a lot closer than that one and that one were, with only 10 years between them. Or at least that's my view. So to summarise, the 1970s gave us Plastic Town, which became City, Space, Castles, and Lego Technic. I can't see any decade where Lego have been more creative and changed their product as much as they did in that particular one. And it's even worth bearing in mind that in, oh, where's it gone? Was one of the one that I wanted to make today, but didn't quite get a chance to. Set 246, which was released in 1977, was a seasonal Christmas set. And in 1977, it would take them another probably 30 years before they got back to the idea of seasonal sets. So yeah, marketing guys certainly knew what they were doing back then, even if they weren't listening to it. Thanks very much. Hope that was interesting.
That really was, Simon. Thank you so much. We just have one quick question for you from the chat. We were discussing about the kind of charm that those older sets had, and even though they're blockier and less detailed, there's something really nice and aesthetically pleasing about that. Al wondered if you think that Lego has become over complex these days, and do you think those classics are kind of more in line what they should release?
Certainly the number of special parts, and do we need that many? Were we more creative when we had less to work with? If you, and particularly I think for kids, you put them in a large box, it's the thing where we've got the 4x2s. Somebody gives them a box of 4x2s. They're not spending the time looking for a particular bit. So that's one of my thoughts, is that because you didn't have that choice, you spent more time building and less time looking for parts. But it's just one person's view. No,
it's a really interesting perspective, and I suspect this is something we can pick up in the social afterwards. I bet everyone's got an interesting take on it. So yeah, thank you so much for walking us through that. It was a really nice like Lego time capsule. It was great fun.
Thank you.
And next up, we've got Chris Wellings from Brick Alley, who is going to show us his Destiny's Bounty. Hey Chris, how are you doing?
Hi, great, thanks. Yeah, I will. I'll flip the camera around. Just to start off with, I should make it clear it's not my design. it is a fan designer called Mock Your Bricks who designed it. I've tweaked it a bit in some places, but it is his design. So I will flip around the camera. Okay, so here it is, and the camera is mirrored. So forgive me if I get my directions confused. So okay, so yes, it is roughly 50% bigger than the original set. So it is 2 sets worth of parts with quite a bit left over of random plates and archways and such like. So what he's done is he's made it more like a traditional junk that you might see in real life. So he's done away with the more steampunk sci-fi elements of the ship, and I like both. So it does differentiate it from the official set, as well as being quite a bit taller and larger. So I'll show you some of the details of it.
And just in case anyone's not aware, Chris,
Yep.
This is based on the Lego Ninjago movie version of Destiny's Bounty, right?
Yeah. Yes, so this is based on the official Ninjago movie Destiny's Bounty set. So building it was quite a challenge. I've never built anything this large before, and there were no instructions. So all I had was like a 15-minute sped up video to watch really, really slowly. So I had to slow it down to 25% and just watch it over and over and check that I had the parts, because I was building from a new set and from a second-hand set, which had quite a lot of parts missing. So it's been a bit of an odyssey to build this. It's been my lockdown project of obviously going through the video step by step and following the build. Some of it is just, and now I've built these dragon heads. It's like, oh, okay. So having to go to the official book, to the official instructions, and build those. And similarly, some of it was like, and now I've built this. And it's sort of like the railing here is based on the official set, but is twice the size. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, you have to, there was quite a bit of go to the official instructions and then see what I've done differently in the video and work it out from there. But I'm so happy with it. It's one of the most enjoyable and time-consuming Lego projects I've worked on, because, as I say, all I was working from was the video, some still photos, and the official instructions for 2 pieces of it. So yeah, it was quite fun. The sails are mine. I drew those. The designer, Mock Your Bricks, did send me some templates, but they weren't the ones he used on his build. And I'm not quite sure what happened in him sending them to me, but they didn't fit. They didn't work at all. So I had to get my steel ruler and pencil out and do a lot of measuring. And not being engineering minded, there was a bit of trial and error involved with it, but I'm really happy that they did work out. The sails are made from heavyweight cartridge paper to give them the rigidity there. The rigging is made from, now I ordered this and it's the same rigging that Mock Your Bricks uses. He did a whole tutorial on YouTube of how to do ship's rigging, because that's his thing. He builds massive modded and mock, mostly pirate and the naval officer ships. Really recommend it if you're even slightly interested in Pirates. He's also done some amazing Pirates of the Caribbean mocks. And so the rigging is macrame string. So I now have a giant spool of black macrame string. So now I just have to build more ships. Okay, so zooming in on this, we've got Cole and Jay fishing there. Nia is in the background patrolling. So I've set them up with the idea that some of them are relaxing and some of them are on guard for anyone coming around to attack. So Kai is on the lookout at the front with the dragon heads. Zane's, yeah. And there's Zane there. And then underneath we have, can I get in there? Yes, I can. So we have Lloyd at the ship's wheel. Cheated slightly with the ship's wheel, 2 different colours. One is the old brown, because I found that in my childhood Lego from, I believe I must have had the original pirate ship, and that's now lost to the sands of time. But I still have the ship's wheel, so there you go, preserving the heritage there. And one is the new brown, but you can't see the difference under the cover. So there he is. There's a table at the back for got a map and the sextant and the telescope. All of these things are, the telescope is a cool build. I will flip the ship around and show you that. That's from the official set, but it's still, I think, a really, really cool, simple build. It's a sextant, but and then with a bucket and the bucket and lightsaber. It's just really such a lovely idea. There we go. There's Nia patrolling there. Sorry if I'm going too fast through this.
No, not at all. This is great pacing, Chris.
So, and then in here, another deck. So the advantage of having the 2 sets is you're able to create a main deck, and then a mid deck, and then this upper deck. So, and then we have the man himself, as he says in the film, Master Wu, very old, very wise, and very handsome. So there he is with he's got his pot of tea there. At the back, we have a special guest. Yep, we have a special guest in the form of Lady Iron Dragon. No spoilers, please. There, I thought I'd put her in for a bit of female representation, and because she is such a cool minifigure. So I'll just pop the phone down because I'm going to lift the decks off. So the very top deck can be removed, and we can see that Master Wu has a much extended and enlarged bedroom from the official set.
Yeah.
So he's got the scroll of ninjutsu there. He's got Garmadon's helmet, the little Easter eggs that the official set has of having an Anacondri helmet there as well, and a nice family photo of all the ninjas there. The mid deck also lifts off, and then again, much expanded training dojo for the ninjas underneath, with a couple of training dummies. Again, this ninjutsu scroll, some places to fight with bow sticks, and a ladder going up to the main deck. And if we lift, start to do this slightly tricky maneuver I have with the main deck. Pop the phone there. No, main deck is in two sections. Again, it's 50% bigger than the official set, so you end up with a lot more room. So You've got a can of non-branded red soft drink there for the Lloyd. Cargo next to the toilet. I don't know how realistic that is to a ship, but there we go. More of the dojo there. Extended weapons racks for the ninjas, including an arrow blade from the Ghost season and the hilt of Nardakan's sword from the Skybound season. There again, more sort of Easter eggs for series fans that didn't appear in the film. The anchor mechanism does work. It's very different. Works when it's not broken. It's very different to the official set, but still quite cool. And then raises and lowers there. And again, the rudder is very different to the official set. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. And it's, yeah, definitely something I'm going to be, it's displaying at shows now, because it's never been seen at a public show. It's its first time at any form of show. And yeah, now that I've got all these pieces left over, I've started sourcing pieces to build the official set. So that could be quite fun to do. A comparison at shows of the size of the official set versus this one. And also, I do kind of miss the sci-fi elements the official set has, even though I think this is a beautiful mock design. So I'm quite looking forward to building the official set. My son is very keen on doing some designs for the sails. Not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see where we go. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I say it's the most work I've put into something, and the idea eventually is that I'll do like a sea harbour setup for it. So getting some blue base plates down and put together like a dockside as per the film, using the Ninjago City Chase. And then maybe change the sails up. I might use like calico fabric and put with gesso on to give it the rigidity. I've seen on some ship forums that lends it a very similar feel to the official Lego sails. But that's for the future. I'm quite happy with where this is at now. And yeah, thanks for all the positive comments, everybody.
What was it about that particular mock that inspired you to recreate it, Chris?
I love Ninjago, as you can probably tell. And I think that ship is the official set is one of the greatest sets they've ever made in terms of its look and its fidelity to the film design. And I love the Asian styling of the sort of Japanese crossed with Chinese styling of the Ninjago movie. And then just seeing this just blew my mind in terms of how good this would look at a show and give something for people to look at that was just a bit more than just here's the official set. Even if I did put that on a display, it's something a bit different and really stands out given its scale as well. So it's the largest thing apart from maybe the Temple of Air Jitsu that I built, and this dwarfs that. But in terms of height and width, it really does. It's going to look really cool at shows, I hope.
What was the most challenging part to recreate?
Weirdly, the sails. because I have no background in that kind of crafting thing. So I was really starting to overthink it, of like, oh no, how am I going to make these sails look right? And I can't get them to work. And my wife said, just make your own, just measure it and make your own. And so that then kind of took me down a I was like, oh yeah, I can do card craft and paper craft. I'm quite good at that. So yeah, just a bit of measuring, a slight amount of trial and error. But as I say, I do quite a lot of card craft anyway. So did eventually, once I pulled my finger out, did eventually crack those. The most challenging part, apart from the sails, was I don't know, making sure that the hold where all the dojo is, making sure that I had all of that complete and correct before then installing all the decks, because I built some of the decks as I got the parts and found them in my own collection. I built the decks separately, but then I had to go back and make sure the hold was all complete before putting those on. But yeah, it's been good fun.
And if anyone has any questions for Chris about this build, please pop them in the chat, and we'll get to them.
Oh, I'm back. Oh.
Yeah, Kaz pointed out that it's hard enough to find room for the original model, let alone for a 50% larger version.
Yeah, this is so quite lucky in that both my children are into Lego, and I've now converted my wife into an apple as well. So it sits on top of a large bookcase with the Temple of Air Jitsu on our landing. So it's, yeah, they're quite fortunate in that regard. Yeah.
And do you have any of the builds planned at the moment? Is there anything that you're fiddling with or working on?
Nothing of this scale. I just bought some random official sets because they caught my eye. But the idea is, when I get, I've ordered a lot of blue base plates, and so the idea is that will then form those into a C and build up like a dockside, sort of Ninjago style dockside with food stalls and that kind of thing. But yeah.
Frankie McCarthy asks how long it took you to build.
Dreading this question. I'm really bad at keeping track of time. So I tried to estimate it the other day, and I guess so I started it before lockdown just, and then it became like, I thought, oh, this will be a good project for lockdown, and I finished it much sooner than I thought. So probably like 4 weeks, like an hour every day. There were some days where I just like, can't face this right now. So it was yeah, maybe like 30 hours, including faffing about with the sails.
So Alec asks, lots of Lego's Big Bang themes fizzle out. Ninjago seems to go from strength to strength. What do you think is its secret?
It's a really they have a really clever formula. I think it because the storylines are, you can actually enjoy them as an adult because they're, it's action adventure, but also the characters are daft, they're funny, so, and it's colourful, but also reinvents itself each year with twice a year with the new enemies each season, and I think for a lot of us who grew up in the late 80s early 90s with a certain, ninja terrapins. I was quite surprised to see ninjas make a comeback, but they reinvent them every time. So this year is like ninjas, but they're Dungeons and Dragons ninjas, and they've all, they're ninjas, but they're in a computer game. So they've been really clever with mixing it up, as well as the fact that they're inspired by the Power Rangers quite a lot. They're ninjas who are all colourful, who drive mechs. So not saying anything.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think, yeah, like the simplicity of the basic design and then constant reinvention, definitely, yeah. Seems to have caught something.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And it's what got me back into Lego, was seeing the Skybound series, because it just ticked all my boxes as a nerd, say already into like sci-fi and steampunk and D&D. So like amazing green dragon, steampunk flying ships, amazing blue dragon. So yeah, Skybound got me into all of this as an AFOL. So yes, it's all Ninjago's fault.
Oh, Chris, thanks so much for showing us that model. It's amazing. And yeah, that was a fantastic tour.
Thank you.
So now we're going to talk to Nick Spence from Brick Alley about the Harley Davidson.
Hello.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Right, I've had to put the earphones on because I can't hear. All right, so...
It's probably much better with the headphones on, definitely.
Yeah, it is for me. Well, I want to talk about the Lego set, the Harley Davidson. I looked forward to this for so much, and then when it came out, it was all just light grey, and it didn't do it for me at all.
Yeah.
They really missed it. To my mind, and yet it's such a lovely, lovely model. So pleased to say, Mrs. S parted with the money and bought me one. Well, I had a few weeks and decided it was time to get a paint job. And this is my interpretation of it.
Oh, wow.
All right. So it's a proper fat boy now. A fat boy, if you look at it, is wide. You look from the front, it's wider than normal. It also has a big tire. This one has a 240 by 40 R18 back tire. It's massive. It's bigger than my Range Rover. Well, it costs more than my Range Rover tires. But yeah, it's been a joy actually just to take every bit of light grey out of it and still get stuck with a couple of bits. If you look down there,
yeah,
those wee bits there are light grey, and you can't get them in any other colour. But I'm sorry, the light's showing it up. What I would have liked to have done is got it chromed. It's the wheel especially. I've changed the wheel. There's the original wheels.
yeah.
The guy that does the chroming for me, he wanted €14 for each wheel. So it kind of got expensive. So I sat back for a while, but I think eventually I will get black wheels, because that is part of the Fat Boy is these solid aluminium built wheels. I think it would look good. The engine, the fins, I've actually changed the complete fins, and we're not going to see it yet. It's actually, I've done an alternating black and dark grey. Oh, sorry, my apologies.
That's okay.
So yeah, it kind of picks it out a lot better than just a black. You can see it there.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So it's quite nice to see the black against it. then I measured it up and I got the scale of it. And my man there is a 12-inch man. He actually is the correct size for my model, 12 inches. The only problem is he doesn't have the hips to sit on the motorbike. So a little bit of a problem there. And then I was thinking, what's the best way of displaying it? And I built a turntable. And I've just got it on radio control unit. So
That's really nice.
And just one of them, I forget the names. I'm not very good with names. And just a worm drive, and it just keeps going. So the next project, this actually started out with young Ashley, who was on earlier, and Technic Adam.
Yeah.
And we were chatting, and we chat online quite often. And I says, I don't like it. I want to change it. And I really wanted to build a trike, but I couldn't get the trike quite right, just to tie in the whole of the back end. So, and I was confusing myself with changing the color at the same time. So I decided, right, start from the beginning, change the color, and even the pillars here are one brick longer in order to tie it in with the mudguard, because there was a gap, and that's not how the Harley is. To my mind, this is only my things that I like. So I took it back, but it will be next time we have one of these, hopefully at the beginning of the new year, it will be a trike. Or Mrs. S might buy me another one so I can make that a trike. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to show it off.
Really nice.
Hopefully.
What was your process for changing the colour? Did you dismantle the whole thing and start from scratch, or did you just take sections apart at a time?
I tried to take sections apart, but once again, I was confusing myself. And it was so much easier just to dismantle the whole thing, pull all the light bluish grey apart, and start ordering it online. The bits that I needed. I've got quite a few bits here anyway. Oh, I shouldn't have said that because Ashley will be up stealing. But no, it was good. It did cost a bit of money, I must admit, but I did enjoy doing it, and I just wish I could get Lego to build figures that fit the vehicles we have. We've got scaled model motors and no figures to sit inside them.
Yeah.
It just seems a backward step in this day and age. Maybe they will. Maybe somebody will see this and say, "Oh, yeah, bigger hips." But poor wee man.
Have to admire
it. He's actually a figure from I think he's an army figure. So he got stripped of all his weapons.
Civilian life.
So there you go.
When you started changing the colours, did you know you were going to change the actual build slightly, or did that just kind of happen as you went along?
I wanted to put more of a tail on the bike. I really wanted to do that, but I had to do that for my for making a trike.
Yeah.
You put a tail on it, and then you can extend the mudguards for the two sets of wheels, or the two wheels either side. So my plan was to maybe have a rod going off the tail to tie in, but it went out the window, and I said, I'm going to do something here, and it ended up going back the way it was. And I still think I've done the right thing at the end of the day, and now I will do a trike, because I love Harley Davidsons. I've been going to America since about 1980, and two things I love seeing is Harley Davidson and Mack trucks. And if we're driving anywhere, I'll pull over just to have a look at a Harley. There's so many different variations. Everybody has their own style, and not one looks wrong. You know, that's my feeling. It's so much nicer than seeing a production, just something coming off the line.
Yeah.
So you're speaking to a geek on Harley Davidsons, I'm sorry.
That's what we're here for today, to geek out about
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions for Nick, please put them in the chat. Are there any builders that you really admire, Nick, or inspire you, whose box you're always checking out?
Well, unfortunately, I'm like Ashley, I'm a GBC, and I've got I'm building a train set to replace the one I ran at Sheldon last year. So it's not completed, but I was using Akiyuki's train, but it just kept breaking down. And I do like its builds, but I don't think sometimes they're made to work continuously. So this one's going to be on Power Plus app. Hopefully that'll work with sensors. But I really don't on motorbikes and that. I just, if something appeals to me, it doesn't matter who's done it. The same as the Mack. The Mack up here.
Yeah.
I spent the time. I got chrome wheels, chromed the Bulldog. I just, if something takes my fancy, I spend time on it. So
We've got some nice comments here in the chat.
oh, that's nice.
Chris Wellings said it was a brilliant idea with the turntable.
Yeah.
Richard says it's lovely. Ashley says great work, amazing work. Kaz suggests that perhaps your next challenge is to build an articulated figure for the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a labour of love.
Yeah, I enjoy, if something's built, I'm a maintainer. That used to be my work, was maintaining someone else's build, right? And I've just taken that across onto the Lego and Technic side. If somebody builds something and it breaks down, I'll have a good try trying to get it going. I'll put my own restamp and changes on it from there on. I'm not a designer. I'll put my hand up to that. Most of what you'll see on the net, things like the back seat has now got grab handles because the one on Lego didn't, and I wouldn't like to be the pillion passenger on there, you know. So little things like that I can add. I can understand. The headlamp, to my mind, and it was all to my mind, looked wrong in the Lego one, whereas I changed it to more of a vintage style. It's a more Harley Davidson old style of headlamp.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, hey, oh, bit shaky. I'm holding this in my hand.
That's been great, Nick. It's been really smooth. We've been able to see that nice and clearly.
Yeah. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to show it. All right, because I have enjoyed building it, and it's kept me out of the way of Mrs. S for a long time.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick, for showing us that. It's really cool.
Okay, thanks very much.
And also thanks to Chris and Simon, who were in this session, who also showed off their builds. Well, in Simon's case, gave us a history tour through Lego in the 1970s. It was fantastic. And thank you to everyone else who has presented today. It's been absolutely inspiring to see all these different builds. And yeah, we can't do it in person, but at least we can do it like this, and you know, celebrate everybody's creativity. And I mentioned it before, but again, huge shout out to Richard and Kaz for putting this together. We're going to switch on over to a social now. This was the last of today's formal sessions, but everything kicks off again tomorrow at 10 a.m. So there's even more amazing mocks tomorrow. Dan Harris is presenting from Bricks to the Past as well. So yeah, Bricks at Home is only halfway through.